Here's the real story. Classic rock wasn't built by the same 20 names radio keeps recycling. There were entire waves of bands carving the foundation while someone else took the spotlight. We're pulling those overlooked architects back into view. And the bonus entry? It's the band musicians worship, even if most fans never truly heard them. Number 10. A guitarist every insider respected. A debut that shaped a sound before anyone realized it. Montrose. They came out of the Bay Area with a voltage the scene wasn't expecting. Ronnie Montrose had already done time as a hired gun. Van Morrison, Edgar Winter, and a run of sessions that sharpened his tone and attack. But this was the first time he stamped his own identity onto tape. Their 1973 debut, tracked at Warner Brothers recording studios in North Hollywood, finished with guitar overdubs at Wally Heider's in San Francisco, and mixed at Sunset Sound, was produced by Ted Templeman. It didn't move big numbers, but the influence reached far past the charts. Ronnie's tight, metallic riffing, Sammy Hagar pushing his voice into the red, Bill Church steady on the low end, Denny Carmassi hitting with real force. The record traveled through guitar cases and backstage conversations before it ever got its due. Number 9. They were tough enough to shake Canadian arenas and connected just enough to catch a guitar hero on his way through. Moxie. They came out of Toronto with a harder edge than most mid-70s peers. A lean, straight-ahead attack cutting through just as North American hard rock was starting to snarl. The lineup centered around Buzz Shearman's gritty vocals and Earl Johnson's sharp, stinging guitar tone. But the detail fans still talk about is Tommy Bolin. He wasn't a member, yet he stepped in to play most of the uncredited solos on their 1975 debut. Despite their Toronto roots, the album was recorded at Sound City Studios in Van Nuys, where Bolin was working on his own LA sessions. When Johnson clashed with producer Mark Smith and was removed from the chair, the band's manager, who already knew Bolin, brought him in. Bolin plugged in and cut the leads that ended up defining the record. Moxie had the songs and the engine, just not the machinery to take them national.
Come on, sing it with me! Ride it! Ride it! Ride it!
Number 8. A band whose reputation grew more from word of mouth and musician name checks than from any hit single. Stars. They came out of New Jersey in the mid-70s with a tight, high-energy sound built for clubs, small theaters, and anywhere an engineer could mic a loud room. The lineup settled early. Michael Lee Smith on vocals, Richie Rano and Brendan Harkin on guitars, Peter Sweevil on bass, and Joe X. Doobie on drums. Capitol released their first album in 1976, produced by Jack Douglas, the same producer sharpening Aerosmith's early records. The songs were sharp, melodic, and confident, but the national breakthrough never arrived. Radio only ever half noticed them, but musicians didn't. That's why Stars still carries weight in hard rock circles decades after those first records quietly came and went. Number 7. A southern rock outfit with a heavier bite. The band people remember the moment the needle drops. Blackfoot. They formed in Jacksonville in the early 70s, built around Ricky Medlock's voice and guitar. a sharper, harder attack than many of their Florida peers. The classic lineup settled with Charlie Hargret on guitar, Greg T. Walker on bass, and Jackson Spires on drums. Before Strikes, they'd already logged years on the road and 2 earlier albums, but everything crystallized in 1979. Strikes, produced by Al Nally and Henry Weck, and recorded at studios in Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Orlando, caught them at full power. Train Train and Highway Song broke through nationally, pushing the album to platinum. But their real legend came from the stage. Blackfoot hit harder than most of the Southern rock circuit expected. Louder guitars, tougher grooves, and a live reputation so fierce that even road-tested bands approached their slot with caution. Number 6. 3 guitars, each with a defined role. A live sound that could change the temperature of a room in seconds. The Outlaws. They came out of Tampa in the late 60s, but the version most listeners remember, the one that built their reputation, took shape in the early 70s. Huey Thomason held the center with that bright, gliding guitar tone. And an easy, unforced vocal style. Around him, Billy Jones and Henry Paul built a 3-guitar approach rooted in arrangement, parts weaving, answering, and rising without stepping on each other. Eris assigned them, and their 1975 self-titled album, produced by Paul A. Rothchild and recorded at Elektra Sound Recorders in Los Angeles, captured that chemistry. There Goes Another Love Song got them radio attention. Green Grass and High Tides cemented the legacy. They weren't chasing spectacle. The playing spoke for itself, and anyone listening closely understood why they stood apart. Number 5. A name you've seen in record bins for decades, with a catalog both broad and underappreciated. April Wine. They started in Halifax in 1969 before moving into the Montreal scene, a shift that opened doors to stronger record support and wider touring. Miles Goodwin became the band's center of gravity. Vocals, guitar, and songwriting keeping the group steady through the lineup shifts. Their early 70s Aquarius albums showed flashes of what was coming, but by the mid-70s, tracks like Ooh What a Night and Relentless Touring sharpened their edge. By the time Harder, Faster from 1979 and The Nature of the Beast from 1981 rolled out, they had locked into a polished but muscular arena rock sound. In Canada, they remained a near constant presence. In the US, they straddled that line, recognized and respected, occasionally rising to chart success, but often overlooked compared with bigger US counterparts. Number 4. A rhythm section built like a battering ram, a guitarist with Detroit in his hands, and a singer who could rattle a room without a microphone. Cactus. They took shape in 1970 after Tim Bogert and Carmine Apice's planned project with Jeff Beck stalled, when Beck was sidelined by a car accident. Rather than wait, they pushed forward with Jim McCarty, a Detroit-bred guitarist with a sharp, biting tone, and Rusty Day, whose raw voice reflected his Amboy Dukes years. Atco signed them, and their 1970 self-titled debut came together at Ultrasonic Recording Studios in Hempstead, New York, capturing something heavy but still swinging. Bogart's bass lines were forceful and melodic. Apiece drove the grooves with authority, and McCarty's guitar cut straight through the mix. Those early records became touchstones for musicians chasing raw, unpolished heavy rock, a blueprint for loud, blues-based power that never quite lost its swing. Number 3. a band everyone knows, and a guitarist whose brief chapter sent them down a different road. James Gang, the Bolin era.
Got the feeling, must be love, yeah, as you can see.
By 1973, Tommy Bolin was already a name musicians respected. His arrival came after the Joe Walsh years and a short Dominic Triano chapter, but he wasn't interested in repeating either of them. He brought a different toolkit, fluid runs from his energy period, brightside phrasing, and a feel that pushed the band without throwing Dale Peters and Jim Fox off balance.
My head is spinning 'cause I can't get enough. Got the feeling.
Bang was recorded at Cleveland Recording Company, with the band self-producing and engineer Ken Hammond at the board, capturing their raw, live energy. Miami, cut the next year at Criteria Studios with Tom Dowd and the band producing, carried the shift further. These records never matched the Walsh-era charts, but they remained essential. A gifted guitarist steering a familiar name somewhere new. Number 2. 2 guitars, 4 hands, and an approach musicians still break down part by part. Wishbone Ash. They began when bassist Martin Turner and drummer Steve Upton left the Torquay scene for London, where they built a new band around 2 guitarists they found through auditions, Andy Powell and Ted Turner. These weren't lead and rhythm players. Their lines met in the middle, doubling, splitting, or running parallel, and other musicians noticed before critics did. Argus, recorded at Delane Lea Studios in 1972 with Derek Lawrence producing, is the clearest snapshot. Clean tones, patient builds, and parts shaped to fit rather than compete. Martin Turner's bass and Steve Upton's drumming held everything steady, giving the guitars room without losing the song's shape. Those early records still come up when musicians talk about how twin guitar bands really work.
Wondering why your face no longer shines.
Number 1. A Midlands trio with a young bass player who could out-sing half the scene before he ever joined a major band. Trapeze.
We can find here. Why don't you come with me, little girl?
They started in Cannock in England's industrial Midlands and pared down to a tight 3-piece built around Glenn Hughes, Mel Galley, and Dave Holland. Once that lineup settled, the sound took on real definition. Hughes playing bass with force while carrying lead vocals, Galley shaping lean, deliberate guitar lines, and Holland giving the bass a grounded pulse. Medusa recorded at Morgan Studios with Moody Blues bassist John Lodge producing. Captured the group with real clarity, space, weight, and a confidence rare for a young band. The album didn't get a major promotional push, but its fingerprints show up later, especially in Hughes' early Deep Purple work. The phrasing, the range, the ambition, Trapeze had headroom the industry never gave them room to reach.
Take the music, it's yours, it's mine. You are the music.
Bonus. A Welsh power trio whose biggest songs traveled farther through musicians than radio. Budgie. They formed in Cardiff at the end of the 60s, built around Burke Shelley's high-cutting vocals and his precise bass work. Tony Borge handled guitar, heavy riffs, articulate leads, and a tone that cut through even in an era crowded with strong players. Ray Phillips' drumming gave the early lineup its drive. Their third album, Never Turn Your Back on a Friend, recorded at Rockfield Studios in Wales with the band producing, remains the clearest look at what they could do. Bread Fan had bite, Parents had reach. The rest showed a band comfortable stretching beyond simple hard rock patterns. They never broke big in the US, but their influence spread. Metallica covered them early, Soundgarden took notes. Budgie became a name musicians kept in their back pocket.
Hey, now follow
I know we missed a few. Name the overlooked bands you swear by.